To me, photography means two things. One is a way of keeping experiences with me and making a record of where I've been and what I've seen of this fantastic planet we have. And the other thing, perhaps more important, is it is a way to convey the beauty, the grandeur, the marvel of the natural world to other people. So either when I'm diving with my little amateur cameras or when I'm walking around here in my neighborhood with the natural parks in Praia do Forte in Bahia, I take pictures. I just take pictures around without any particular aim, but always when I see something that is really uh, beautiful in terms of the natural world, I try to capture that and share that with other people. I think it's a dire moment in the history of our planet, and we have to convey the beauty and the importance of nature to others, and images can do that in a fantastic way.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw. Jose, amazing. Great. Well said. I mean, straight out of the blocks. Amazing. Jose Truda Palazzo Jr., yes?
Yes, that's me.
Nice. Okay. Thank you for joining me on Shooting It Raw. We live in an amazing time in history and whatever. The world really is incredible. You are almost exactly the other side of the planet.
That's right.
It's crazy. Like you're about as far from Hong Kong. I mean, look, there's farther places, but you're far, man. Like, okay, where are you right now?
Yeah, it's really amazing. I'm in Praia do Forte, which is half an hour away from Salvador in Bahia, Brazil, northeastern Brazil. I was born in southern Brazil, but I live here because I work for the Brazilian humpback whale project, doing marine conservation for them, and also enjoying this fantastic tropical nature that we still have around here in coastal Brazil.
Amazing.
And it is
Amazing.
really it is really fantastic that we can connect like that. You know, when I started my environmental activism back in 1978, we had to do everything by mail.
What? Stop. 78?
Yes.
Respect,
Yeah,
brother.
it's been a long time.
Amazing.
And I was about 15 then, and
Wow.
we had to communicate by mail. You know,
Yeah.
when we had something really urgent, we used telegrams.
Wow.
But we did our campaigning to stop whaling around the world, and in Brazil in particular by mail.
Mm.
So it's fantastic that we have these tools now, and we have to use them well to
Yep.
tell people how important it is
Yep.
that we act as a global community for
Yes.
the good of everyone on so many social environmental issues. You know.
Jose, you're like, okay, this is the first time we've met. And we're going to learn all about you through your photographs. But, okay, I have to find out if you are my nemesis, if you are my mortal enemy. So, are you known as Don Tiburon where you live?
No, I'm really the whale loony.
Okay.
I worked probably most of my environmental career with whales.
Wow.
In 1981, we rediscovered a breeding population of southern right whales in southern Brazil, which was thought to be extinct in Brazil, and
Oh,
I
wow.
worked almost 3 decades with them. And then I had all the work in the anti-whaling campaigning. I was the Brazilian deputy commissioner at the International Whaling Commissioner for many years,
Wow.
and now I'm working with humpbacks.
Okay.
But as a sideshow, I helped found the campaign called Divers for Sharks,
Mm-hmm.
together with a dive operator from Rio de Janeiro, Paulo
Mhm.
Penguin.
Mm-hmm.
And since 2010, we've been trying to educate people also about the dire situation of sharks and
Yeah.
mobilizing the dive community to help them.
I mean, that's how I came to find out about you, how our paths crossed. Maybe you picked this up, maybe you didn't. I mean, I asked you about Don Tiburon because, as luck would have it, you know, I was running shark rescue and, there's a big campaign and I
Right.
became known in Mexico. And I'm not saying Mexico is the same as Brazil. I'm not that dumb, but, But in Mexico, it's called Don Tiburon. And so I was just
Right.
like, listen, man, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, nowadays sharks need all the help they can get.
For
So
sure.
it is great that you're doing this and that you've done work on that.
Okay.
Um, and sharks also benefit, I think, from photography.
Oh, for sure.
Since people started diving with them around the world, and I've done that in a couple of times in Yap in Micronesia, where I've been many times. I'm actually Manta Ray Bay slash Yap divers ambassador for Latin America,
Wow.
and you dive there with all sorts of reef sharks, and then you go to Mexico, places like Playa del Carmen, and dive with those enormous bull sharks,
Mm.
and people start seeing divers with sharks around the world thanks to photography,
Yep.
and start thinking, maybe they're not as killing machines people have told us about.
Sure. Okay. Well, okay. Let's use killing machines as the natural segue into the first photo. I love this because I don't know you. I see your face. You're very warm, very nice. And so the first photo that I just, hold on. Okay. So that I have is called Jaws. The photo is, okay, so it's basically you standing in what could be a museum. You're doing a selfie. You're wearing what looks like a somewhat officious shirt. I can't really see what's print. It's like a polo
Yep.
shirt or something. Your expression is kind of like you're not smiling. You're not hamming it up for the camera. You're just looking at the camera saying, here's a selfie. And the frame around you is a massive.
Yep.
Now, is this a plaster reconstruction or is this a
It is.
real
It, it
proper?
it is a replica of a megalodon jaw
Right.
and teeth. It's in the aquarium in Guam
Oh, okay.
in the Pacific, and I was en route to Yap actually
Okay.
for diving with sharks and manta rays.
Okay.
And I took this picture because I thought I could use that in the many assignments that people ask me to show up and send pictures about sharks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good conversation piece. And
Yeah, for sure. It looks, I mean, it's very dramatic. I mean, it's a funny expression because okay, so behind you, you don't see the shark. You always see
that's right.
the bony jaw of a megalodon,
Right.
mouthful, megalodon. Okay.
Megalodon.
Yeah. And so it framed around you are these gargantuan teeth and this big jaw and whatever. And okay, so I say to you, hey, look, Jose, send me some photos. Let's talk. And it took a while for us to finally line up this call, but and thank you so much. And
It's my privilege.
well, hold on. We only started the conversation. Don't say it's your privilege. How dare you, sir? But
it's always good to chat, whether it
Sure.
turns out good or bad for me.
You're an optimist. I love it. Okay, so why start the conversation with this photo?
Well, I think that people think of Jaws always when they think about sharks, and you have to talk to them about reality, about what brings shark incidents around the world, which is usually murky water, shark exploratory bites. They're not trying to eat everyone,
Mm-hmm.
which is what sensationalist media tries to portray them with, and of course the movie Jaws didn't help.
Yeah.
So you start with the teeth and you end with how important sharks are for the ecological balance of the oceans and how much sharks contribute to the economy of coastal communities where people do shark diving,
Okay. Yeah.
because they are essential in many places,
Yeah.
and for generating sustainable jobs and income.
Yeah. Like in Indonesia, when they were estimating that for every shark that was there, it brought about something like 3 million US into the economy with associated tourism and stuff. So yeah, it's
Yep.
obviously
Places like the Bahamas, yeah, and Oslo and other places in the Philippines, with whale sharks,
Right.
Cebu with the treasure sharks.
Yeah.
As I said, Yap with manta rays
Mm.
and reef sharks. It's really amazing what marine ecotourism can do for the local economy and for conservation.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's not that many people in academia recognize that, because you keep seeing all these papers about the horrible impact of ecotourism, but when you go down to the heart of it, the cost benefit is 99% in favor of
Sure.
continuing doing shark dives in marine ecotourism. I got so pissed off by all this phony reports on the impacts that I wrote a book about it. It's
Okay.
called Living Water: Marine Ecotourism Communities and Conservation. It's coming up later this year
Oh,
by an
great.
Australian publishing house, Stormbird Press, and it basically portrays the cost benefit and the
Yeah.
importance of marine ecotourism for all these communities. And of course, as you know, photography has a lot of
Oh, for
doing of
sure.
it.
For sure. Okay, so let's bring a level of hmm, I don't know, just like a sort of poetic sense of what is like an emotional response. So when I learned how to surf, for example, one of the other surfers there looked at me and said, "Hey, every surfer has a story." And I was like, yeah, whatever. I don't have a
Right.
big wave that I want to be afraid of or anything. I'm just new to surfing, whatever. It's fine. And literally the next day was a tsunami, right? In
Oh
2004.
wow.
So in that light, without it being, I'm not saying being glib or being sensationalistic or whatever, but in a sense, like monumental in your life. You've been around sharks in the water with them alive and being what they are and who they are. So do you have a moment that jumps to mind when you think it transcends almost like your own life? Like it was just such an incredible experience that you're just like it was almost poetic. Do you have a moment like
Right.
that or?
Well, I do actually have a couple of moments which relate to diving. One was when I did my first dive. I mean, I'm a late diver. I've been working with marine conservation and whales ever since I was a kid, but I only learned to dive when I was 36.
Okay.
I was scared of water. I
Oh,
couldn't
wow.
swim or anything. But then a friend gave me a dive course as a Christmas present, and I was ashamed of not taking it. I said, "Oh hell, I'm gonna die, but I'll have to do this."
Right.
So my first immersion in the ocean, in the Abrolhos Bank area in northeastern Brazil, which is the biggest coral reef area, was really something. It opened up an entire new world for me. I
Yeah.
knew the ocean was important. I knew the ocean was beautiful, but there was nothing like seeing it underwater.
Oh, for
And
sure.
then I started to escalate that, and then I ended up many years later with my wife going to my wife now, because we got married in Yap, going to Yap, which I saw in magazines
Mm-hmm.
and advertisements as this big place for seeing manta rays. And
Oh, wow.
then I got down in Yap first. I think it was 2007,
Oh,
and it was absolutely incredible. First to dive with manta rays
oh yeah.
and see this huge fish just come over the cleaning stations and start looking at you
Yeah.
and being curious and enjoying your bubbles rolling uh, through their belly and
Oh,
things.
sweet.
And then having a second dive in a place called Vertigo, which is at the drop off of the coral ring around Yap, and seeing all these gray reef sharks and black tip sharks just swarm around you. I mean,
Oh, wow.
you were scared of going down from the boat, because they were really swarming around the boat,
Oh, wow.
and then you jump in the middle of them, and nothing happens. I mean, the only thing that happens is they look at you and pass around you,
Huh.
and you go down to the drop off, and there's this wonderful 50-meter visibility, and you see
Oh, wow.
literally dozens and dozens of sharks just
Amazing.
going about their business and going around
Amazing.
you, and then you realize that we are one with the ocean, with
Yeah.
this top predators just going about their business and having a look at you, and never exhibiting an aggressive behavior towards you.
Amazing.
So there's so much we can do to get in touch with the natural world. But I think that these experiences in the ocean perhaps offer you the best opportunity to take your children and get other normal people
Hmm.
to experience real wildlife, and
Right.
that was
Right.
really transcendental for me.
Dude, you delivered. Thank you. That's really perfect. Wow, amazing.
Mm.
Okay. I started Shark Rescue as a moment because I was really motivated around conservation and around the biosphere, right? So I've always, is it that I've always loved sharks? Well, I've always loved animals. And yeah, so that moment of kind of moving into conservation, we're going to go get into, and
Mm.
maybe this is a perfect time to switch to the next photo. What do you think?
All right, yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Okay. So in the next photograph, let me just look at this. Okay. So it's a photo of you holding up a poster. So you're standing with a it's like a, I don't know what's the name of those hats. It's like a summer hat.
It's a Panama hat.
Yeah, okay, Panama hat. You've got what looks like a frangipani stuck inside the rim or something. You're
Right.
wearing another polo shirt. It's got a bunch of shark graphics on them, like a hammerhead or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's a sign for the bull shark diving in Playa del Carmen.
Okay, so it says Tiburon Toro Bull Shark, and it's got all of these like. I mean, you're holding up it's like I don't know, an A3 sized piece of paper.
Mhm.
And, was this your sign or just a sign that you found?
No, it's a sign that was given to us by the people working with shark conservation
Hmm.
in shark diving in Playa del Carmen. This picture was taken in it was 2016, I think, in Cancun, when the Convention on Biological Diversity met
Okay.
there,
Okay.
and we were organizing a side event, a session on sharks, whales, and marine conservation, to
Okay.
talk about non-extractive uses of
Yeah.
marine wildlife.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've been around these international conservation treaties for a long time, probably around 30 something years. And one thing that really bothers me is that there is very little representation of the people that profit from leaving nature alone, from
Right.
doing non-extractive uses
Yep.
of wildlife, both marine and terrestrial. Whale watching operators, divers, ecotourism guides, bird watchers. None of these people is really
Yeah.
well represented at international treaty meetings that deal with conservation and define global policy.
Right.
So we started going there as divers for sharks, and annoying people around, because these international treaties are little cliques
Hmm.
where people establish their territories. They don't really like interlopers to come and start with strange new ideas like
Sure.
protecting wildlife gives you more profit than anything else. CBD is on the right track on that,
Hmm.
but we wanted to bring the marine component to it, so we got this side event, and we invited the local shark conservation people in.
Okay.
And lo and behold, the shark dive operators are the ones who fund most of the conservation work in Playa del Carmen.
Right.
Bull sharks used to be killed in huge numbers there. People from the ordinary tourism industry were afraid of them.
Sure.
And then there was a whole work being done of raising awareness, hiring fishermen to help protect them, and do shark research. So we brought the bull shark diving into the CBD as an example of
Right.
what you can do when you protect and restore marine wildlife and use it in a non-extractive way. It generates jobs and income, which is much needed in coastal communities around
Sure.
developing countries.
Sure. Jose, I have to say something, like, through the podcast, I get to meet, well, basically whoever I want to talk to. So, like I
Right.
get to speak to artists, and there are four main themes, right? One of
All
the
right.
themes is creativity, creative expression. One of the themes is conservation. One of the themes is something called service leadership. And one of the themes is strong women.
All right.
You're not exactly a strong woman, but with all due respect,
Not really. Yep.
with all due respect, but
My wife is
conservation.
though.
Okay, of course, but conservation, like for me, we're talking shop about
Hmm.
going out into the field, going to these conferences, and sure enough, as you say, these meetings are okay. How do we maximize profitability in by harvesting these animals? Like that's really the mentality of like, and then
Yes,
it's completely. I mean, it's shockingly extractive and
it
destructive.
is.
And so this
Yeah,
idea of having this, like you show up and creating a conversation that really just says, okay, hold on. Did you know? Maybe you should do this instead and make more money or whatever. And it's amazing. I think I love it. I totally love
it
it.
is. Yeah, I mean, it's really important. Whale watching was a very important force to get most countries to adhere to a ban on global whaling,
Mm-hmm.
especially around Latin America, where you had Japan coming around and buying votes from all different developing countries.
Mm-hmm.
When you started showing people back in the 90s that they could make more money for their communities by protecting whales instead of killing them,
Yeah.
and then you started to bring different constituencies to the table. You
Right.
know, when you talk about how nature protection can generate jobs and income for specific communities, these communities become part of the political trust for conservation,
Right.
and that's what we've done with coastal communities for whale watching. That's what's being done with shark diving around the world,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to do that further in all these different treaties.
Right.
For instance, you have CITES, the Convention on
Yeah.
International Trade in Endangered Species of Fauna and Flora, which is there to promote trade.
Yep.
Hell no, it should be promoting conservation of all these
Sure.
different species. And there's a specific topic in CITES about livelihoods, which usually refer to the livelihoods of people harvesting and killing animals
Yep.
or extracting plants. We need to interject there the livelihoods and the cost benefit of not killing these animals and extracting these plants, and instead using them sustainably by non-extractive means.
Yeah.
That's what we've been trying to do over time. It is slowly working,
Okay.
I'm happy to say, but we need more voices. We
Okay.
need more professionals from the ecotourism field to be present at these meetings, and then national delegations must include them. Not
Yep.
only include the whalers or the hunters, but also bring about the voice of these people that live from protecting nature.
Yeah. 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 Basically to have a full, well-rounded conversation as opposed to have a few voices for sure.
Yep.
So talk to me about this photo again. Let's just go back to it because I don't know if you're in a conference center, but it looks like you're almost in a
Yes.
lounge area of an airport. It's got that brightness and whatever. So when that photograph was taken, like, what was that day like? Like, what was that feeling on your face? Because there you have a nice warm smile, like you're looking extremely pleased.
Yes.
Yeah, bring us back to that moment.
Right. I was just out of our side event, which was called Sharks, Sparks, and Whales: The Importance of Non-Extractive Use of
Mm-hmm.
Marine Wildlife,
Mm-hmm.
and it was pretty well attended. There was people from all over the world. The company which did media services for the Convention on Biological Diversity decided to broadcast it
Okay.
live.
Oh, nice.
So it had a really really good impact. So I was happy because every time, I mean, it's an uphill climb,
Right. Of course. Of course.
conservation,
Of course.
and you have to push this mastodon up the hill
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and try and make sure it works. So that day I had the impression that it was working.
Nice.
The frangipani flower was a gift from my friends from Micronesia.
Okay.
Besides going diving in Yap, I've been around different Pacific islands, trying to help on different conservation works. They have a SPREP, the South Pacific Environment Program,
Hmm.
where a friend of mine was the species conservation director, and I tried to be present at different meetings and help their agenda forward. So yeah, it's always satisfying. It comes up as a smile
Sure.
when your conservation efforts paid up.
Yeah, of course, of course. So, okay, so tell me, let's bring you back to when you were a kid, right? So, when you said when you were 15, you started getting around conservation, right?
Yep.
Um,
Hmm.
Now, somebody who's listening to this, so for example, in my case, when I decided to kind of do something very active for shark conservation, it was, the end of or the middle of the financial crisis in 2009. And I was like, well, I'm not making a living, so I might as well do something that, I don't know, that brings me another kind of reward, right?
Hmm.
Which, I mean, I'm always doing little entrepreneurial things anyways. So, but in your case, why don't you share, like, what did your journey look like that sort of
Hmm.
landed you as this committed marine conservationist?
Oh well, that's a pretty long story. I need a
Dude,
beer for
it's a
that.
podcast. We're talking.
You're right. Well, I came from a pretty traditional family in southern Brazil, in Porto Alegre. My father was a bank worker and
Hmm.
climbed up different steps to become a bank chairman.
Hmm.
And I was always curious about different nature.
Hmm.
And I started watching on TV one of our local conservation activist leaders, José Lutzenberger,
Hmm.
who ended up being a very, very important national leader on conservation issues. Mind you, it was 78. Brazil was still under military dictatorship. So he
Yeah.
was one of the very few outspoken leaders trying to get the message across. And it so happened that he was a colleague of my father at the local Rotary Club.
Oh, that's
So
funny.
when I started showing a real interest on things that this guy was saying on TV, my father said, I know this guy, I can introduce you.
That's nice.
So he introduced me. We talked on the phone. Landlines. There were no cell
Sure.
phones at those time.
Yeah.
and and then he invited me over to one of their weekly meetings of the local state association for the protection of the natural environment, Agapan,
Okay.
which was all every Monday evening. And I went there. My father took me there, and I listened to his boisterous talk about local issues and things we should be doing and stuff. And as I was sitting there was this other old guy going around with pieces of paper and leaflets and things, distributing materials. And he stopped in front of me and he pointed the finger at me and cursed me. He said, "This young man's gonna work with the whales," and handed me a petition against whaling in Brazil and started talking to me about that.
Wait a sec.
Well,
Wait.
that guy was called Augusto Carneiro.
Okay.
He was the guy who energized the audiences while Jose Lutzenberger spoke by going around getting their phone numbers and making
Uh
sure
huh.
these people got into the pipeline of conservation. We've been friends since that until his death in 2014. We founded an institute with his name, Augusto
Okay.
Carneiro Institute, and well, from there on, it was kind of a snowball. I got interested in whaling and whale conservation. And after that, in 79, I met one of the other few voices against whaling in Brazil, who was the deputy chief of staff of the armed forces,
Okay. Yeah.
Admiral Ibsen Câmara. And I went to the national capital to meet him. It was a surprise that he would agree to meet me with the agenda he has on his work, but we also became friends. In 81, he became the chair of the National Conservation Foundation and wrote me a letter saying, we have this black whale appearing around southern Brazil. By that time, I had a group of volunteers doing wildlife anti-poaching enforcement near the
Mm.
border of Uruguay and things. And he said, "Well, why don't you go to this coastal area and start looking for these whales? I have $1,000 for 2 years of research." So we started going around. I was in my first year of the biology course in university,
Okay.
and then we started going around and found these whales in '82. Um, and after that, I never went back to school. I did 3 university courses: biology, veterinary, and law, and never finished any of this.
Oh,
I,
wow.
I, be, I became a professional gardener for the rest of my life,
Right.
actually.
Hey,
And
so
from there on, it was just a snowball down
right.
the hill.
I have to ask this though. So we heard about the shark moment. So my wife and I did this thing with Biosphere Expeditions. I don't know if you've
Hmm.
heard of them. Essentially,
Yes.
you have, yeah. So you pay to participate in a field study. And so collecting data, you don't need a PhD to collect data, like water
Hmm.
temperature, like water, just kind of observations of what whales and dolphins or whatever are doing. And so for 2 weeks, we went on these things, and it was in the Azores. So we looked at,
Hmm.
all these different whales, and we had some magical moments being out at sea and just having this insane, I mean, in the ocean, not at sea, out in the ocean, and having these really just incredible experiences. So you've been on the water a lot. And
Hmm.
so how about you give me one story of a magical moment, and then follow it up with one story of like, holy shit, I shit my pants moment.
Oh well, I well, there are many magical moments underwater and above the water. Perhaps the most impressive moments with the ocean I had was when I was doing whale research training in Patagonia.
Oh, wow.
In '84, the International Whaling Commission met in Buenos Aires in Argentina, and I was fortunate to meet Dr. Roger Payne, who
Hmm.
was the father of modern whale research, non-lethal research. He discovered that humpback whales sang and that you could identify whales by their natural markings, all that.
Right.
And he was running a whale research program in Patagonia since the early '70s. So I went there in '85 to do my research training with him. And I think that the most magical moment was when we were camping on a pebble beach in the peninsula of Valdez, where these right whales concentrate there. And I was walking down the beach, and it was high tide, and a whale just came by and started kind of walking with me, you know, because
Okay.
they can hear you walking
Oh,
uh,
wow.
through as you walk
Of
in the
course.
pebble beach.
Of
You make
course.
noises, and it was just kind of walking around. It was curious, and it walked around with me for about 10 minutes down the beach,
Amazing.
and it was at a full moon, and it was really, really quite something. It was just me and my then girlfriend, mother of my daughters. Now, and it was really, really quite magical.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A moment when I almost shed my pants. Let me think about it. Um,
When
I
you say it's almost when you say it, it's almost a
I
beautiful thing.
I I think it was I think it was when I first went to Palau with my
Okay.
wife.
Wow.
We got into a liveaboard cruise, which was really, really cheap, and we soon discovered that the reason it was cheap because it was the start of typhoon season.
Oh.
and
Okay.
and the first day we were supposed to go diving, we got from this. It was a big ship which is no longer in service. It used to be a communications ship for a Japanese fishing fleet, and it was
Huh.
now a liveaboard. And you got down in the small speedboats, and then we took a 30-minute ride to Blue Corner, which is, of course, the world famous dive site of Palau with all the shark action and things.
Hmm.
Well, and the weather was really getting worse. So when we reached Blue Corner, there was this huge wave breaking over the reefs.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
huge. It was the size of your ordinary home wall.
Wow.
And then it was the first time that I was really scared in all diving operations and crap. And
Huh.
uh, I was lucky enough that everyone decided not to dive that day, and so
Sure.
we went back to the ship, and the ship ran for dear life to get into a channel in the middle of the islands to escape the typhoon, which of course passed by, and nothing else happens. A couple of days we resumed
Oh, wow.
diving, but looking at that wave and thinking that I could be underwater in there, I mean, no, I don't like that kind of stuff. I'm
Full
a
on.
I'm a transparent water, warm, no current kind of person
Yeah.
for diving.
Got it. Full on. So, hey, when you're telling me the story about the whale, there are certain moments, like, so when we were in the Azores, just because you speaking reminded me of this, right? And also
Mhm.
what you were talking about, the sharks who are looking at you. And hopefully in sharing this, somebody who's listening to this might get a bit of access to that magic. So in our case, we're on this catamaran in the middle of the Atlantic.
Wow.
We looked left and right. You can't see any land at all. We were so far away from the islands.
Hmm.
And at one point, a massive pod of what they call common dolphins,
Right.
right? We're just kind of going across, and
Hmm.
then there were these adolescents, like these small adolescent dolphins
Hmm.
playing in the wake or the bow of the water. And at
Oh
one
wow.
point, I'm sitting there making photographs, and this one dolphin comes over, and in the water, the boat is tipping up and down, very gently because we had slowed down or stopped.
Hmm.
And the dolphin comes up, and it didn't come out of the water. It stayed under the surface, but maybe like 5 centimeters below the surface itself. And it turned over on
Oh
the
wow.
side, and we were just looking at each other. It was clearly, it had this like sentient observation where I was looking at this animal and it was looking at me for a good like 10 seconds. Like it was looking at me trying
Yes.
to figure me out.
And then you
And
realize there's a mind there.
of
Yeah.
course. And that's something I wish there was a pill or a device that you could just give it to somebody and say, look, eat this and you'll understand. And then all of
Right.
a sudden,
It is pretty amazing. I mean, you can see that in Wales.
yeah, for
We
sure.
had we had these opportunities here with humpback whales, especially around the Brollios, which is still their main breeding ground in the southwestern Atlantic, and also in Peninsula Valdez, which to me is the best whale watching place in the universe because you have
Hmm.
this big gulf which is surrounded by high walls, and then 400 or 500 right whales just going about
Ha.
the Gulf, and then you get out from this little village, Puerto Pyramides, with a company called Pequesos Avistages.
Hmm.
This family has been doing whale watching for 50 years.
Okay.
I know Peque, he's still there, but it's his granddaughter running the office now.
Amazing.
It's his son is the captain. It's fantastic. And you go out for 3 minutes and the whales surround your boat,
Yeah.
and they're very very curious. They don't let you go. They just put their eyes out and look at you and rub the boat, and
Yeah.
just like the gray whales do in Baja California and Mexico,
Sure.
and that's why I'm such a campaigner for human wildlife interactions. Those
Yep.
things
Okay.
are life changing,
Yep.
and they create ambassadors for conservation.
Hmm.
And although I understand the need for regulations and
Yep.
making sure that people do not have an impact on wildlife as they're watching them, we have to find ways of providing these encounters,
Sure.
providing these interactions, so people can see that there are other minds on the planet that deserve
Absolutely.
protection and respect.
Yeah. Man, you said protection and respect, and for me, that's a cue to go to the next photograph. Okay, next. So the next photograph, okay, so there's a very handsome fellow standing with his arms
Certainly not
crossed.
not me.
Standing with his arms crossed. It's very bright and sunny. It looks like a spring day. I don't know. It's a close portrait, basically of your torso and your head. And behind you, there's I guess I don't know if it's a panel or if it's a canvas or something, but it's like a poster. that says Instituto Balea Jubarte. How would you say it with a proper, without me
Yes,
butchering the language? How
it's
would you say it?
Instituto Baleia Jubarte, Humpback
Zubarchi.
Whale Institute, Jubarte.
Jubarchi. I love it. So take us through this photo.
Right, it's a few meters from where I am now. It's right in front of our visitor center here in Praia do Forte. It was taken when I took the job as the institutional development officer for the institute. I
Mm-hmm.
basically in charge of partnerships, fundraising, and public policy. And the institute was created in '96 to give institutional support to the humpback whale project, which started in 1988 when the remaining humpback whales were discovered in the Abrolhos National Park,
Mm.
which is this huge coral area in southern Bahia. And people found whales there when they were starting to implement the park. At the time, there were something like 500 humpbacks remaining in
Mm-hmm.
Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
and now there are about 20,000.
Whoa,
And
what?
in no small part because of the work that the institute has done. So
Oh,
I'm
good for you
really happy
guys.
to work here.
Amazing.
And the institute works in three areas: scientific research, following the recovery of this population, public education, doing things like going to schools and providing educational materials, and supporting whale watching,
Mm-hmm.
providing capacity building for whale watching operators and local communities, and running interpretive centers. This is the biggest one,
Mm-hmm.
just north of Salvador and Bahia. We have another one in Vitoria, which is the capital of Espírito Santo state, south of the
Okay.
Abrolhos Bank. And we have a small interpretive island in Itacaré, which is a touristy area, also in the middle of Bahia. And we're planning to do more work in São Paulo, in Ilhabela, and also
Mm-hmm.
in Rio de Janeiro. At these centers, we have life-size replicas, many interpretive panels, and we also have young monitors from the local community who take the visitors around in this beautiful 3-acre garden of Atlantic Forest
Right.
and show them the different issues related to the life, the research, and the conservation needs of whales.
Now, I have to ask.
Oh, sorry, I forgot the third part, which of course is
Sure.
perhaps the most important, which is public policy. We
Okay.
try to use all this work in science and public awareness to influence public policy towards marine conservation.
Okay. Great. How has, I mean, look, Brazil's story with COVID isn't exactly best practice and leading the way. So
Jeez, man, thanks
how?
for being kind.
So what has life been for you for the past 2 years?
Well, it's been really, really difficult. Brazil's handling of COVID has been a total disaster. Everyone knows that. And thanks to the governor of Sao Paulo state, who started pushing for vaccines and making vaccines at the state owned Butantan Institute, that's when a real nationwide vaccination program took off.
Okay.
I had a mild COVID. My wife spent a week in hospital,
Oh,
and
wow.
that was really traumatic. We lost a lot of friends and a lot of important people for conservation in Brazil too.
Oh, fuck.
On top of that, I had a 2 year battle with cancer.
Oh, shit.
In the middle of that, fortunately, even as hospitals were swamped with COVID cases in ICUs and all that, I was able to do a few surgeries and all the treatment I needed.
Oh, wow.
Now it seems that the alien has left me for
Mm.
a while at least. But it was really bad for everyone, especially for ecotourism. And our whale
Yeah.
watching partners suffered a lot. We
Yeah.
have just released a short documentary that we did last year, Among Whales and Pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
where we showcase the hardship and the resilience of the coastal communities we work with. Fortunately, people are rebounding. Economic small businesses are rebounding, thanks in great part to vaccination,
Right.
and we're hopeful that it's going to get better.
So, uh, you okay, so fighting, like dealing with cancer, dealing with you're saying you had a mild case of COVID. It wasn't so bad for
Mhm.
yourself. It's just like how, so the tone of the beginning of the conversation, because it's kind of
Mhm.
my energy, definitely is definitely up there. And you too sound like an optimistic, positive human being. Like I see your face and you've got this warmth and this brightness. So why don't you talk about where you got strength? Cause how long were you fighting cancer? It was 2 years, or you
Yeah,
said it was a 2 year?
it's been kind of 2 years and a half. It's been an interesting magical adventure over the last 3 to 4 years, because before that I got a brain tumor, which which happened to be benign, fortunately. But then, in the wake of doing all the different rechecks and exams and things, I found kidney cancer, got the kidney out, found prostate
Ah,
cancer, got the
Jose, man.
prostate out, and all. But
Jose,
I
you're
I'm not.
amazing.
Well, I'm kind of a survivor,
Kind
and
of.
I think there are two main strengths to get me through different things in the life, and cancer is one of them.
Yeah.
One is my family. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I have two wonderful daughters from my first marriage, and the second
Right.
one from my second marriage that came with my wife already.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave me a great, fantastic grandson who is 7 now.
Oh, sweet.
And all of them are really hooked into nature. And my grandson plants trees with me, and he's now learning
Oh,
to
nice.
snorkel. And we have
Nice.
all these plans for traveling around and taking him to see things.
Yeah.
So, and I have a fantastic wife
Yeah.
that's been with me all along, and buys into my battles and fights. And family has been a big factor, but also I think that it might be immodest to say that, but I think that I have a sense of purpose in my
Mm-hmm.
life, and
Okay.
all these things I still want to do, all these books I still want to write, and
Sure.
places I want to go. And especially after all this cancer episodes, I got the sense of urgency of talking to younger people
Right.
and
Okay.
going to all. I don't go to academic congresses and seminars anymore, but if the local biology students club anywhere asks me for a talk, I'll do that gladly. I'll go
I
out of
love
my
it.
way to be able to do that, because you need to mobilize young people and let them understand that it's the individuals that move the world. It's the
Right.
individuals that change
Yeah.
society.
Yeah.
You cannot rely on governments or big structures. You have to do it
Mm-hmm.
yourself and find the strength in yourself to change things.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that helps me, keep
Yeah.
going.
For sure. For sure. Okay. So just a quick note to add to that, like from the work that I do in service leadership, right?
Mhm.
Service network leadership. What we say is that the strength that people have comes not from individual excellence, but from group, unity and then effort, and the
Yes.
network itself is what makes us stronger, like stronger
Yes.
together and all this stuff. So I hear you, man. I mean, like
Yeah. But it's networks of motivated, mobilized, conscious individuals that makes the
okay.
difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Not a network of a bunch of sleeping idiots. Yes. Got it. Check.
Yeah.
Got it. No sleeping idiots. Got it.
That's right.
Okay, well, because I said sleeping idiots, let's move on to the next photo. um, I love this. What? I love it. Okay, so it's I can't read the title too much. I think it says Julia and Manta Lady Elliot is the title of
Yes,
the image.
it's me and my older daughter at Lady Elliot Island in Australia.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
she.
So let me describe the photo because it's
Mhm.
got, okay, so it's an underwater shot. In it, it's like that beautiful blue, cool subtle, just like haunting, but not haunting. It's not scary. It's like, it's
Mhm.
this perfectly beautiful blue. And then, so there's you and your daughter just kind of together in your scuba gear, your wetsuit, the tanks, all this stuff. Is it, are the bubbles coming out of your daughter's? Is that your daughter's head or is that your head?
Good question.
Well, but what makes the shot, first of all, it's a beautiful portrait, but what makes the shot is
Right.
just behind you, maybe
Yeah.
20 meters or 30 meters, is a manta ray just kind of gliding by.
Right.
So
I'm
what's
the
this
fat
photo?
guy. I'm the fat guy there. She's the thin person. And yeah, well, my older daughter Julia moved to Australia
Okay.
when she was 17, and remained there. She's now an Australian citizen. She's a
Oh,
graphic
well.
designer and a pretty talented artist. And that was my first birthday after she moved there. So I went to spend my birthday with her.
Ah.
She was living in Brisbane there, and I took her with me to Lady Elliot Island,
Oh,
which
okay.
is a small dive and ecotourism resort off the coast in the southern part of the Great Barrier Reef. So the waters are not that warm, but it's beautiful coral, and they have
Mm,
cleaning stations for manta rays too.
right.
So we spent a week there, and the other thing that's not in the picture, but it is fantastic at Lady Elliot in winter, is that you dive listening to the humpback whales. They're
Oh, wow.
migrating. They're migrating around to Hervey Bay and other breeding sites north, and you don't see them very often because they're transiting, but you can listen to them while you're diving. It's really
Okay.
really magic.
Now, with words, convey what that feeling is like. I don't know what that's like. I haven't been in the water when whale songs from a humpback are filling the space. So what is that like?
Well, it's a message from beyond, from beyond time, from beyond our human existence. It talks to you. The whale talks to you from the depths of evolution, from the possibility of roaming the world and being free in a different mind than ours.
Hmm.
And that's why I think that people were so mesmerized by humpback whale songs, because she talks to you from almost another world, and
Hmm.
still you listen to it, and you feel that you pertain to that world too, and that you have a responsibility towards the singer
Hmm.
of that song.
Mm.
It's difficult to express, but I think it's about that.
Well, let's get into it though, because okay. So have you been around elephants?
Oh yes, and South Africa and Zimbabwe.
Oh, nice. So you've been around elephants and they're doing their like, the really low frequency sound. It's the
Mm-hmm.
kind of sound that you feel in your belly. It's
Yes.
just like, it's like, an intense, deep, rich sound. So you're in water, and I know that I don't know if it's humpback specifically, but I know whale sounds carry across hundreds of kilometers because it through the water channel,
Oh yeah, yeah.
the sound really travels.
Especially when it's low frequency, like blue whales and fin whales, it travels
Okay.
through the depth channels with
Right.
different densities in the
Yeah.
water, and they can talk to each other for hundreds or thousands of kilometers. It's really
Which is
amazing.
just nuts. Which is just
Yeah.
nuts. So when you hear a humpback whale, so I mean, they're recordings of humpback whales, so we
Hmm.
know the diversity and the amazing, how amazing it is. Now, but what is it like when you're diving, you're in the water, and then all of a sudden you like, does it hit you like a wall? Is it loud? Is it like, does it startle you? Is it like, how does it enter your body?
It is. It doesn't shock you. It's an eerie thing that you start to listen as if it was a song, an actual song, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and it doesn't. it doesn't shake your belly like the low frequency sounds of elephants, but you can feel it. You can feel it through your body.
Right.
And it's really eerie and amazing to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And just like I'm glad you brought elephants, because there's a parallel there in that we're slowly starting to realize that there is such thing as animal culture.
Mm-hmm.
We are prone to accept that apes have culture, gorillas and chimpanzees and orangutans, because we relate to them more easily, it seems, because
Sure.
we're apes too. But to see culture in different far related species like whales and elephants, and most likely manta rays, other species, it really gives you the idea that there are other consciences around in the planet.
For
And
sure.
it enhances our responsibility to learn more about that and relate better to them instead of just wreaking havoc like we're doing.
Well, my feeling, and I don't know if this is something that'll resonate in your head, but I find like it's how can you be exposed to this stuff and not feel humbled?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like when you look at an animal that is clearly sentient on a different level, like even a dog that makes sense of the world through its nose. Like how could you not feel a little bit humbled next to it by saying, okay, hold on, we have to make a certain space for each other.
Yes. When you listen to a whale singing, or look into the eye of a whale, it's like contemplating the stars. It puts you in your place in this big circle of the universe.
Sure.
You're looking into creatures that developed way before we did, and that became species way before we did, that roam the world and look at the world in ways that we can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And it does humble you a lot.
Yeah. Oh, Jose, listen, it's I love the fact that I meet a person like you. We start talking and it's like I've already had you an hour and I'm just like, what?
That's right.
Dude, it's been so nice.
Time flies, man.
Okay, hey, okay. Here's the other thing we didn't even get to touch on is that I think I'm really sensitive to language, right? And so I think Brazilian Portuguese is like the sexiest, laziest, drawliest sound ever.
Muito obrigado.
So I would like you to give me a 2-minute spiel in Brazilian Portuguese about why we should save the whales. Or why somebody should get involved with marine conservation? Say it in Portuguese. Like pretend I'm a dumb young kid that you want to convince in Portuguese. And what I'm going to do is just listen to the musicality. Take it away.
Bem, nós não costumamos olhar para os oceanos como algo que é muito importante para a nossa vida. Mas quando a gente começa a entender as conexões, começa a ver que tudo está relacionado, que as chuvas que caem na nossa terra vêm dos oceanos, que o clima que a gente experimenta vem da circulação dos oceanos e que a vida marinha equilibra toda a vida no planeta, inclusive a nossa, nós nos damos conta da importância de nos envolvermos e de protegermos os oceanos. As baleias, a gente descobriu há pouco tempo, são verdadeiras jardineiras do mar. Elas ajudam a fertilizar o plâncton, a produzir mais peixes, a absorver carbono, a ajudar a regular o clima da Terra. Os tubarões, que as pessoas têm medo, são animais extremamente importantes porque eles são predadores de topo de cadeia que regulam os ecossistemas nos quais eles estão inseridos. E matar esses animais para fazer sopa de barbatana é um crime contra nós mesmos. Nós precisamos descobrir maneiras de valorizar os oceanos e de gerar emprego e renda com eles sem destruir. O ecoturismo marinho, a pesca sustentável e transmitir para as novas gerações a importância de vivermos em harmonia com os nossos oceanos. I hope that helps.
Obrigada! I love it!
De
Thank you
nada,
so
you're
much.
very welcome.
Thank you, Jose. Jose, you're my man. Thank
Hey,
you.
thank you, Ren. It's been quite a privilege to meet you and to be here with you today. I hope that we'll keep in touch, and
Yeah,
Hong Kong is definitely in our sights for travel. I have other friends there, and I hope we'll meet
amazing.
in person.
For sure.
If you ever get down to my part of the planet, you have a house in Brazil, in Bahia. It would be great to have you here with us.
You're awesome. You're amazing. Dude, have a great day. Have a great day. Thank you so much, man.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.